We ready?
Clear some space.
Clear some space. Let's go. Do not disturb, please. We're live. Good afternoon and welcome to another Grays of Westminster live stream, live from London. I am Becky. This is Constantine, who's too busy
very important
messaging
GameStop. Yeah.
messaging people to pay attention to what we're doing today.
5,000 shares.
That's this is our new financial correspondent. If you watched the Nikkon report that we published a day or two ago,
And Wolf of Wall Street at the same time.
Right. If you made sense of any of what he was saying, then he's your friend. I didn't understand half of what we were saying, and I actually was there. Dennis was asking when the Nikkon report is aired. It's actually not live. We record it normally on a Monday, and then it gets edited because there's an awful lot of nonsense and silliness, more so than is on the live stream. And then
It's all that fun that you've been missing.
we cut all that out, and then we just give you the hard facts. So it usually comes out on Wednesday or thereabouts. That's the aim anyway. Today we are sharing a microphone, so if the sound is a little bit different, it's because we forgot the splitter.
My fault.
It's Constantine's fault, and also mine because I forgot the microphone. Doesn't matter. It sounds good. Okay, good. Now, if you are not already a subscriber, please do subscribe. We have 2 days to hit our 6,000 subscriber target, which we were going for. It's Valentine's Day on Sunday, boys.
And we need you.
That's right. You
there.
show us
You know
some
who you are.
Show us some love. And a thumbs up on the stream. I see that 25 people have already liked the stream, which is very kind of you. And you've all been so busy commenting. I think this is going to be a very interactive stream. There's a lot of comments from Manhattan and New York and all over the place. And some people in the UK as well. And Horsell and Norway. There's Richard's here as well. And to those of you who are not watching it live, I did hear there were a few messages that came through that said, I'm sorry, I can't make it live. That's okay. You can watch it after the fact and we still love you.
All I hear is just excuses, really.
Right. Another thing that I mustn't forget is that we have not a giveaway per se today, but instead we are giving everyone a £20 voucher. So there is a coupon code that I've forgotten what it is. Nikon Love. So you can use that on our shop. £20 towards pretty much anything. That is a gift for you. And you don't even have to put your comment that you would like to win or anything. It's just there for you to use.
Yeah. So feel free to share this code with everyone. Let's share some love.
Let's share some love. Exactly. That's right. Over £50 minimum spend. There's not much on our shop that isn't over £50, to be fair. So it's quite easy to be done. Now, also, we are doing a second-hand promotion until the end of the month. So if you are looking out for something in second-hand, we are doing £50 off a £500 spend. It's less than £500.
Okay.
50. Yeah, that'll do. £100 off a £1,000 spend and 150 off a £1,500 spend. The coupons are all below, so if you need those, share them with your loved ones, and you can buy some second-hand equipment. There we go. Right.
Yeah, TV shopping with Becky and
I
Con.
know, it's like, okay, next. Oh, also, Coffee Fund. Last thing, and then we'll get into it. I need to thank On the Coffee Fund on a roll. For these are people that have bought coffees for us through the eShop or via PayPal.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Ian Willard, thank you. GSL Production Services. I actually didn't know who that was, but if whoever it is, please speak up. Thank you very much. Jan Semenov and Simon Theobald. So thank you very much to all of you for your contributions to the Coffee Fund. Right, let's get on with it, shall we?
All right. So there is such a lens.
There is the lens, the 50mm focal length. We've got a selection here. I don't know if you can see that. Yes, you can almost see that. Ranging all the way from the glorious 50mm 50mm f2. We've even got the very rare 5cm f1.1, which is a little bit of a heritage lens. That's a rangefinder lens. Very, very rare, but beautiful. We have both versions of this, both the internal mounting and the external mounting version in the shop, believe it or not. So let's talk about 50mm as a standard focal length.
So why is it called normal or standard?
Well, the theory was that it reproduced the same field of view as the human eye.
So the way we see the world. Now, it gets a bit more complicated, isn't it?
It is far more complicated.
Because actually our eye can see wider.
Well, we've
right?
also got peripheral vision, but
Yeah.
it's supposed to be basically like the reproduction ratio of the human eye is the 50mm focal
Yes.
length. So an object will look the size that it looks to you when you're using that lens, supposedly.
Supposedly.
However, there is a little bit of there are some naysayers.
Exactly. We can all put a tinfoil hat on top, but there is a rumor, well, not a rumor, but they say that actually it wasn't to do with that. It came later, but it was designed back in 18th century, well, 19th century, and that's the way that you just use the lenses on the movie cameras first.
Yes.
And that would cover 36mm frame, which was going this way.
Vertical. Right.
Yeah, and that was 25. And then we switched to still cameras,
right.
and the frame would go this way. It would become 50.
Right.
And that's to do with the basically lens being covered the area where the image was created.
Right. So that was the origin story of the 50mm.
So now I'm sure the most popular comment is going to be people explaining us why 50 is a standard lens.
Yes.
So we're going to leave it there.
What we will do is, in fact, no, I don't have it set up. I was going to show you the article, but we will share the article. We'll probably do a little segment on it in the Nikon report for a weekend read. It's definitely a weekend read. It's not a small article, but it's just interesting. It's by a chap called Alan Daigle, and he wrote for The Atlantic.
Ooh, the Atlantic magazine.
That's right. And he says how the 50mm lens became normal. It's very interesting to see where its roots are and why we now consider it standard, even if it's not actually entirely standard. But
yeah, I think it was more close to 45 actually, the kind of the human vision. You know.
And what he says is that actually when you transfer from that old cine film to current cameras, 35 might be the closest thing to it. Which is funny because 35 has always been my preferred focal length.
Well, 35 would be on DX sensor as well.
The 35 on a DX sensor is 52mm, right?
Yep.
So yeah, exactly. So anyway, there's a lot of theory, but we're just going to talk about why or how or the wherefores of these 50mm lenses. So we started off in Nikon terms with the rangefinder. The S, the S2, the S3, the SP, and those normally came with, or you could buy with, a 5cm lens, and it was ordinarily a 1.4.
Yes.
5cm,
5cm 1.4.
But they also did this beautiful 5cm f1.1, which was a bit of a specialist lens. And as I said, they had an external mounting version and an internal mounting version.
Correct.
So that's the rangefinder lenses. Then we moved on to the traditional Nikon F mount. So the Nikon F came with could be bought with the 5cm or 50mm as soon as we got through the first production line, 50mm f2. And a lot of you are probably fairly familiar with that lens. If you can see that there. It's using face detection, but you got the idea. It's quite a small little tidy lens.
It doesn't have a face?
It doesn't have a face on it. Now, I notice a lot of people are already commenting on what lenses they've been using. Please do tell us what you think about 50mm being the standard.
What's your favorite 50 lens?
Yeah.
And what's your least favorite 50mm lens?
Yeah, exactly. Because in between all the hellos and saying hello, and hello to all of you who have personally said hello to me.
Not me.
No, not to Con. No, there are a few people who have said hello to you too. We will talk about the Z lenses in a bit as well. So
but let's have a conversation.
But yeah, exactly. Tell me what you think. A few people have said that they had 50mm 1.2s, but they don't get a lot of love or they don't get a lot of use. Imtiaz said that they've just spoken to the Nikon guys in India and found out that the 50 1.2 AIS is not on their inventory anymore. Which we reported, was it last week or 2 weeks ago now? A couple of weeks ago, discontinued now, which is a grand shame. So this seems like an appropriate time to talk about it.
But I'm sure there are probably some still last of brand new stock around somewhere in the world. So if you do look for one, definitely get one now, because soon they will disappear. That's right. And Terry and Steve, who are both regulars, both used 50mm for the January 1 lens challenge. Yeah, that's true. I saw Terry's Instagram. That's right. And Steve used the 51.2 AIS. Good choice. I used this one for my January 1 lens challenge. I used 7200. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then a few people have like the 50, like Adrian's got the old 55 1.2. I'll talk about that in a moment as well. So we had the
we had the 50 f2, and then we also had a 1.4 version, which we didn't see so much. In fact, I don't think we've got one, do
So
we?
they came out with, we don't know, but they came out with scalp ring first, so those were the first versions, and they were updated to kind of more of a standard ring later on.
A little bit later, yeah, exactly. And then they also produced, as Adrian pointed out, a 55 f1.2, which for pre-AI, they didn't do a 50, they did a 55. And then that slowly transitioned over to AI as opposed to pre-AI. That's a lens that I have at home, which I happen to not bring with me, but anyway. And the 55 1.2, I personally like it versus the 50mm just because it's a little bit different, and it's not quite so flat. I don't know if that makes sense.
I personally don't have any experience with this lens.
No. Baxter says his 51.2 is not one that sees much action. Love the 50mm focal length on medium format systems, but that's what, 20.
Sorry, which one?
A 50mm on a medium format.
Depending on the on the frame. So yeah, it's going to be a bit wider.
Yes, exactly. Because I've got a 50. I've got a 55 or a 50 on the Pentax, and it's really wide.
Yeah, because you've got 645 format, 6x6, 6x7, 5x7 formats.
Yes.
So they all will give slightly different focal distance.
Exactly. Right, just having a little look at anyone else who'd commented on 50mm lenses while I'm here.
Well, you're looking at it. My first 50 was 51.8G. And you normally buy it when you buy your first SLR, isn't it?
Good bulk standard lens.
I think I paid about £75 for mine, brand new.
That's pretty good. But the price of that lens has gone up and down so much over the last few years.
I mean, a lot of people refer to those lenses as standard and normal lenses as well because they are generally the cheapest to manufacture compared to other focal distances as well.
Yeah.
So obviously, what we used to have is film cameras would be sold with one of those lenses.
Yes.
And I think the last camera that was sold with 50mm actually it wasn't 50, it was 45, and it was FM3A. So and that had 45 kit with it.
That's right. That was an unusual one actually.
Yeah, 2.8p, and it would have pins to tell the camera what lens it is.
That's right. Hector says that his eyes are actually 600mm, which if you've seen his pictures on Instagram, then you can understand why.
I wouldn't want to be your neighbor. I can tell you that.
Andy says the true ratio equates to 43mm, but 50 became the standard. We knew that was going to happen.
That's it. Yeah, I always say 45, but 43 is the right
43 one, sounds good.
And as well, they say it's actually not like it has to be a projected image at a certain distance, normally the length of the hand or something like that.
Right.
So that's the way.
So then that's even more variable.
Yeah,
really,
and that shouldn't give you any either distortion or wide angle or telephoto.
No. Exactly. Now, thank you to Jeremy and to Richard for your contributions to the coffee fund. I just realised that our widgets disappeared. I forgot to log back in.
Oh yeah, I want to see the glass, the ice cream glass.
Yeah, it needs to be
filling up with money.
That's right. Yeah, so sorry. I'll have to reset it for next week.
Makes me feel rich when I see that.
That's right. Even if it's just virtual. So the lenses are going in the description box. Our producer is very busy putting all the links to those things. So if any of those are of interest to you, the descriptions are below. You can have a little further look at what we're showing you on the table here. Now, James says the 1.8 Z lens is superb, sharp edge to edge, great for portraits. We're going to talk about that.
It's an interesting one because I'm reading all the forums and all the things that people say online.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I'm reading a lot about Fuji medium format system at the moment, just to see what it is. And a lot of people say that from mirrorless system, let's say GFX lenses, they're much bigger and heavier, and optics are superb. Only Nikon Z lenses that are comparable with it.
Interesting.
That's a general consensus, and it's very interesting to me. So if you want to read more about this, have a look at Luminous Landscape forums and Fred Mirand forums. So yeah, a lot of people compare Z lenses with medium format Fuji lenses. No other brands are compared.
That is very good to know. So far, what I've seen, I haven't used the 51.8 very much. I think I used it when the Z7 first came out. But I have, as you know, been using this 51.2, and I have nothing but good things to say about it, except for the fact that it's too big.
Well, I took 51.8 since you got 1.2 version,
That's
and
right.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice, and I compared this with Sigma Art Lens 1.4, which is superb lens as well in its own merit, but very heavy. And I do find it very interesting. I wish it would be 1.4, but bokeh rendering is very neutral, very nice, and overall center sharpness is fantastic.
That was because that was my curiosity, was why isn't there a Z 1.4? Wouldn't it be great to have 1.4 just to sit in between those?
But it's interesting now because 51.8 used to be a very cheap and expensive lens. So £75 back in 2006 or so. Right. Now we're in a market where 50 lenses become a kind of a luxury lenses.
Yeah.
So we see those art lenses costing £500. Obviously, we're talking about Zeiss costing, several thousands of pounds.
That's right.
And then we got Nikon 51.8 retailing at £600.
Yeah.
Which we had a lot of complaints when it first came out because people say, well, it's too expensive for what it is. But when you actually look at the image quality, look at the rendering, and then you can say, well, actually, it's much better than F-mount versions of Nikon 50s, like 51.4G or 1.8G.
Yes. Now we'll come to, in the timeline of things, we'll come to those. But that you make a really good point.
Back to manual focus.
Back to the history of that. So after the pre-AI lenses, our scallop shape, and then our sort of later updated types. You haven't got any AI lenses here. That's an AI. There we go.
Well, they're going to look the same pretty much.
They
part
do.
Of the aperturing
Very
colors.
important though to those who care. So,
tell me why.
Well, I did a whole video on that. For most people, the difference between AI and AIS doesn't make a huge amount of difference. There are a couple of cameras that it makes a difference on. But there was that brief time period where Nikon went from this style to the rubber grip style of pre-AI lenses, and then they came out with the AI lenses, so aperture indexing, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about. So they did a 1.4. They also did an f2 AI, which we don't see very often at all.
Yes, they don't come in. No.
They hardly ever come in. And then they did not one, not two, not three, but 5 versions of the 51.8 AIS.
And Becky wrote an article about it.
I actually haven't published the article yet, but yes, it's
internal email
in progress.
That's been leaked.
That's right, internal email amongst the crew. So the AIS lenses of the 51.8 variety have 5 different generations. There's do we have the non-pancake style here? No,
I don't think we have first version.
I think we actually stole it. We sold it.
Well, this is 1.4, but 1.8 would look pretty much the same.
Yeah, it almost looks identical. Yeah. So it was kind of, first version looks like that, and then they decided to slim it down a bit and make a compact version.
Now, to show you how compact it is, I'm just going to remove the rear cap.
Yeah, you can.
Here you go.
You can see alongside a non-compact lens. Let me hold that next to it. Right way round. There we go. See that? So the one that Con's got is the compact one versus a non-compact version. Now, this was the one that kind of tricked everyone, because different serial numbers had different attributes. Some of them were produced for different countries. The first version, I think personally, was the nicest one. This was what we call the A version.
Yes.
Can't actually even remember why we call it the A version. I did look it up once.
It's not Apple, is it?
No, it's not. They start with serial numbers beginning with the number 2. They were produced between 1980 and 1982 for the Japanese market specifically. The key difference is that they have a rubber focusing grip.
Yes.
So, and also the closest focusing distance is 45 centimeters instead of 60. Right. So then they started making these, which are the what we call the new type. They have a compact, compact. They have a plastic focusing ring. The closest focusing distance is 60 centimeters, and the serial numbers start at 4. So there's that one.
Okay.
Just in case you're looking at your lens and wondering which version it is, the non-compact versions start with the serial number 3. So there you go.
But actually, there's going to be another version.
Oh yeah.
That you forgot to mention, as people we put in forums.
Yeah.
They actually had one of 51.8, which would be identical to the first version, but would have a supermarket logo at one of the elements. So we only had one.
Really?
Yes, and it was basically one of those, like what do you have in the United States?
Prototypes?
No. It's like a big, supermarket. I'm thinking about like MediaMarkt or something like this. So
whoever it was. So it was made specifically for them.
It was basically the same lens, but it have a supermarket branding on them. Not 7-Eleven, but more like a Target in the United States,
Right.
yeah, or Currys in the UK.
Oh my goodness, how interesting. So I didn't know about that one.
No, we only had one. I think it came from Michael F3adis.
Oh, wow. There you go. And then the other two versions were Series E lenses. Series E lenses were kind of an economy line of lenses. They were relatively cheaply made and inexpensive to buy. The first version was very plasticky and ick. The only way I could describe it.
No, I have one of those. It's scratched up,
Yeah.
and I call it my special effects lens.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it gives so much flair.
Yeah, amazing. And then the second version actually looks a lot more like this, the Series E, but you can tell because it says Series E on it, and it again has the rubber focusing grip.
Okay.
It's very interesting. I don't know why they did so many versions.
So it's purely cosmetic changes.
Yeah, cosmetic
Optically,
changes.
they would be the same.
Aside from the fact that the Japanese version had the 45 centimeter close focusing distance. It was the only one that had it.
So generally when we've been asked, do you have this particular lens with this minimal focusing distance? And then normally we'd have to go pretty much for all of them.
Yeah, to work out which one's which. Kevin also has the 55 1.2 like me. He had his upgraded to AI. Mine was actually one of the AI versions that was actually AI straight out of the box, but yeah, it's a lovely lens. It's very special. John says I had a 50mm on my first Nikon F. What it was, not a clue. Probably a f2, John. That was the most common one. The 1.4s were pretty unusual. And Roy says 50mm would make a great portrait lens on a cropped camera. So yes, the 50mm still has a use if you're using a DX body, because you get the crop factor, so you've got about 75mm focal length. And Roy also says the new Z lenses are stunners. They really are. I have to say a very big thank you to Terry and to Vince for your contributions to the Coffee Fund. Must keep an eye on that while we're going along. Now, one of the things I will point out about these manual focus 50mm lenses is that Nikon made them very adaptable. You could use them on extension tubes. You could use them on bellows units. A lot of the bellows units were designed for use with a 50mm lens because it was a lens that everybody had, sort of thing. And you could also use it with reversing rings. There were a number of reasons why 50 was useful to have in the kit bag. You can obviously also, with a 52mm diameter, pop on close-up filters. The problem with using extension tubes and close-up filters, I find, is that when you use longer lenses, it doesn't really have much of an effect. Whereas if you use a 50, like a 50mm reversed is amazing. Actually.
So it becomes basically a macro lens.
It does, yeah.
And you buy just a cheap reversal ring.
Pretty much.
You know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I always feel that it's worth having something in that focal length.
I thought when you said that they're very adaptable, what you meant is Nikon didn't really change their mount for like 70 odd years.
There's that too. You could also use it on any of your cameras.
Like some other companies did.
Space Talisman. That's my husband.
Hey, Danny.
There we go. So that's the manual focus lenses.
Yes.
And then we move over to the autofocus. So a couple of weeks ago, we did our AFD stream, didn't we?
Yes, we
did. But we talked about all the different, so we're not going to sort of belabor the point too much, but 51.8D, as Con said, was a very cheap and cheerful. I actually got this one first on my D200.
It's a very nice lens.
It was a portrait lens on the D200, but I liked it very much. And then when I went for the D300, I changed over to a 35 and actually preferred that because it was a real sort of closer to 50 focal length. However, if you just want a lens to kind of get started with,
absolutely,
51.8D is great.
It's interesting because when you just buy your first camera, you want to spend a lot of money on the camera and you don't think about lenses as much.
Yeah.
At least it was with me.
Yeah.
And then you find out, oh, actually, the lenses that would matter. And then they start to think, okay, well, I'll get the cheapest one, which is 51.8, let's say, and start with that. And then they'll start to kind of save up money for some bigger lenses.
Exactly. But when you get to the G lenses, it's almost counterintuitive because the 51.4G was the first autofocus prime lens with the silent wave motor. With
silent wave motor, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was quite slow.
Yes, it is probably the slowest focusing prime, AFS prime from Nikon.
Yeah.
I mean, 85-1.4 is also fairly slow, but...
1.8, you mean?
Well, 1.8 and 1.4, both of them.
Oh, really? The 1.4 is also slow. Well, I don't use that.
I would say all AFS primes are fairly slow, I would say, but 51.4 is the slowest of them.
I would say so. And then the 85 1.8 is a close second.
But it's interesting what they did with the AFS lenses because 51.4 came out and it's a good lens, but when 1.8 was released, it actually was, a lot of people say that in the center it was actually sharper.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
It was fast focusing as well at the same time.
Yes.
while being, I think, twice cheaper at least.
It was, it was slightly around half the cost, which is the 1.8G is half the cost. And when I bought, I think, got my D750, I was looking at comparisons between the 1.4G and the 1.8G, and every time the 1.8G just seemed to be better and sharper and nicer bokeh and faster to focus. So anyway, there you go. Jay Vladcliffe uses a 50SC, which is a pre-AI lens, converted factory conversion on his D700, his or hers, sorry. Keith says, if there's a better value lens than a 1.8D, I don't know what is. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think if you really don't have the budget for anything more and you need a 50mm focal length, you cannot go wrong with one of those, unless of course you're using a body that needs a motor. And
again, just to repeat about D lenses, the beauty of them that they can be used on manual focus lenses, but because you can still change the aperture while they're aperturing.
That's right.
On film bodies, and then you can still obviously use them on digital bodies and change the aperture with the controls on the camera.
Yes, exactly. So we had the 1.8 non-D, the 1.8N new version, and then the 1.8D.
Yes.
Same with the 1.4. We had a 1.4, a 1.4 new with...
We had new as well, yeah, okay.
Slightly cosmetic changes, that was it, just cosmetic changes. And then the 1.4D. And that's... do they still make D? Do they
well,
still make
they're still available. We still have some stock of them. But I wouldn't be surprised that they're going to disappear probably in the next 3 to 6 months.
Very, very true.
Are we going to mention 5814 as well, or we're gonna leave it?
50. We will.
We will.
I'm just kind of lining out the dates.
What are people using? And
so Andy says the PN11 being 55mm long means that the 50mm lens when used gives a subject distance of under 2 inches or 1 fist away. Is that right? Under 2 inches or 2 feet? Anyway.
I'm a meter and centimeter guy.
Yes, me too. Metric system, Andy. Jared doesn't have a 50mm. Well, Jared, there's some links in the description box. Sorry.
Pick one.
Shameless plug. Alan says, let's not forget Nikon's contribution to the darkroom Nikkor enlarger lens.
Oh, yes, they used to do those.
Enlarger lens on his Durst. The Nikkor f2.8 enlarger lens was a legend. That is a very good point. Thank you for that, Alan. I didn't even think about that. Baxter points out that the E series were launched with the EM. This is very true. It was an economy line with the camera and the lenses for a particular, let's say, price point around the time when the economy needed it, let's say.
It's like Tesco Basics.
Yeah. Well, Sainsbury's Basics.
Sainsbury's
or
Basics.
Tesco Everyday Value, I think is the...
Not taste the difference.
for those in the UK that know what we're talking about. Ed, thank you for your contribution to the coffee fund.
Thank you.
Somehow I've missed that. Oh, please do give us a thumbs up. We've got 182 viewers and only 78 likes. So if you like us, please give us a thumbs up. Terry has an old Sigma macro 50mm. That is interesting because I use the 60 as my kind of standard lens on, well, I have been up until quite recently using it as a standard lens. And although it's obviously a little bit of a longer focal length, it produces a very different rendering.
That's true. And if you're into portraiture, I would recommend to go for 58 or 60mm focal distance.
Yeah.
And again, that's just not just because you can take a general portrait, but also when you do close-up portraits to the face, it gets rid of that distortion in the close-up.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Now, an interesting point that someone made to me last week, I think it was that with the slide copying, if you're slide copying, whether you're using the ES2 or whether you're just using your own contraption, your own system, a lot of people use extension tubes on the 50 in order to just get close enough, right?
Okay, that's cool.
You can actually do that. That's cheaper than buying a 60mm lens. However, the 50, even the 1.8G, doesn't give you edge-to-edge sharpness if you're trying to do something as clinical as copy a slide or a copy a negative. So for that use, I would say the 60mm is definitely the better lens.
And you have to stop it down a little bit, yeah.
And you do have to stop it down, yeah, exactly. I mean, the problem is that with the 1.8G, even stop down, it's not edge-to-edge sharp. It does fall off quite a bit.
It's almost like it's not designed for reproduction work.
Exactly, it's really not. Vince says the 51.4G hardly ever gets used, but the 51.D does because it's tiny and cheap, so literally I think he means goes anywhere. Just
set up like
slip
this.
It in the pocket.
Absolutely.
Went in the pocket.
Very good street life documentary photography style.
He also says, I still haven't picked up a Z lens as I'm torn between the 1.2 and the 1.8. You said that Rishi did quite a good review between those two.
Yeah, he did comparisons, and Rishi is very meticulous. So he does test shots and he compares them at all different apertures. He zooms in at 100%. So if you pixel peeper, it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Very kind of methodical.
Yeah.
Dissecting.
Exactly.
Lenses.
Whereas my review, which will come out in the next 6 to 8 weeks, whenever it gets edited down to something that's actually usable, is a comparison between the various different 50 1.2s, just because I'm a manual focus lens user quite a lot of the time. So I found that to be a difference.
I think what we like to do with our videos is to do more about, to talk about actually photography and what the image comes out of it, instead of specifics and, optics and et cetera, because you can get this information nowadays online anyway.
You can, exactly. Now, Terry said he also has the 40mm macro, which is a DX lens that does equate to about 60mm. Again, a useful lens, I would say. I don't necessarily know if you need both a 35 and a 40 if you've got a DX camera.
No, well, unless you do macro, of course.
Yeah, but I think if you are picking between one or the other, it's worth having the 40mm macro because you can use it almost as a standard lens.
But if I would have 35mm as my to-go lens, then I probably wouldn't get 50. I would go more like 58 or 60mm, just to give it extra distance.
This is why I like the 55. I like that it's a little bit different. Now, Richard had to pause us because he had a Tesco delivery. How rude and inconsiderate. Tesco's getting a lot of, they should sponsor us. Tesco's?
Here's the life hack. If you have a coffee machine, Ashbeck water has such a low pH. It's beautiful. It's not going to put any scale on your boiler.
That is amazing. Ashbeck water.
Ashbeck, it's from Highlands, I believe.
Yeah, it's from Tesco.
5 litres, £1.10.
My goodness me. Roy says, pity the 60mm macro is out of context.
I'm sorry, I wish Tesco would sponsor us.
You're going to just send this to them afterwards. We're like, look, guys. We're still not sponsored, by the way. So Roy says, pity the 60mm is out of context. I mean, it's not, I would say, because I'm saying that I use it as an alternative to a 50mm. But anyway, yes. So I think I pretty much caught up with what everybody is using.
Yeah.
Mebius.
Okay, what 50 do you hate?
Don't say that. We don't want to know what people hate. We want to know what they love. You can say what you hate. Actually.
I hate Sigma. No, I actually tested 51.4 art. Very good lens, very heavy.
Really?
Yes.
Is the 1.4, right?
It's 1.4.
Is it?
No, it's not as heavy as this. It's about half of the size, right?
Right.
Optically, it's very good. It's very sharp. 2 issues with it is focusing when it's accurate is fantastic, but half of the time, maybe I had a dot, but it would punt a little bit. So if you slide out focus, it would show.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, if Nikon would make something like this, so it's more of a luxury 51.4, because it was about £600, when I had it 3 years ago. Nikon had £300 51.4.
That's right.
Which was half the size, small and lighter, but optically not as good. Now in age wave we have 58mm lens, 1.4, and obviously we have Z lenses. I think Nikon has its age, but at the time, Sigma art was fantastic.
Yeah, I've not tried it, but I've heard lots of good things about it. Now, I haven't actually I'm trying to think, have I used any other third-party brand lenses? No, I'm a Nikon girl through and through.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I deep every now and then.
You do, dabble. It's good to keep your options open.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to try different equipment so I can kind of form an opinion.
Completely. Jared says, I used to work at Nikon metrology some years back. Didn't get into photography till after I'd moved on. Could have used a staff discount to buy a 50mm.
Remember when Nikon had student discount?
Yeah. And when they had staff discounts. So Drazen says, hello, special hello to Mr. Foteini. Mr. now. Ms. Still single, by the way.
Send her flowers.
That's a travesty. Sorry, the stream
She's on Tinder, link.
The stream is going off the rails. Right, let's bring it back. So
Sigma lenses.
So now I want to talk about the Z lenses.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So you've spent a little bit of time with this one.
Yes, and I like it very much.
Now, as you were saying, this is an odd one because if you look at this 51.8 versus this 51.8, even with an FTZ, actually with an FTZ?
Well, with FTZ, it would close. It would be 2/3 of the size, isn't it?
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah, exactly. So, but just even the weight difference, I suppose, again, you have to add the FTZ.
Now, I wish Nikon would release something like this for Z mount, because as a kind of run and gun setup, well, with the body, it's still fairly compact. I still would want to have something like this.
It's still quite chunky. And
it doesn't need to be super sharp. It just needs to give me a proper Magnum look.
The Magnum
that's all
look.
it is. I'm not asking much.
What's on the roadmap, though? It's a 28 and a 45. You're right there.
That's why I don't like
lens cap.
There's a pancake lens on the roadmap.
There's a 28 and a 45, I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the 45...
That's the one I probably will be pre-ordering.
What did I do? Baxter said, "How dare you bully my future wife?" So the I'm not going to be able.
Shall I walk Foteini down the aisle?
Give her away, you mean?
Yes, I will tear up.
Oh dear. So I would say that if Nikon could produce something that is, as you say, about this size, thank you, you're saving me from the lens cap disaster. So the 45, if we popped it at about that size,
yes.
We don't know the aperture on it yet, though, do we?
No, potentially 2.8. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, fine. I'd like it to be f2 or something.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah.
But yes, I think for the size on the Z mount, it will probably have to be a 2.8.
I think it's good to have something like this. It's good to have something like this.
one of each.
And also this. Everyone should get one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Now the 51.2, as I've talked about many times over the last few weeks.
Yeah, that's not a coffee mug, just so you know. It's a real lens.
It's actually a lens. Yeah. It does weigh a ton. One of the things that I like about it is the fact that it's this focus ring is fantastic. I did have a few
you can't really miss it.
You can't miss it. Like when you're holding the camera, your hand is literally on there. So
where's the focus ring? Yeah.
So you can't get it wrong. And if you're focusing very closely, sometimes the lens will sort of prioritize objects that are a bit further away. So being able to grab this and turn it is very helpful.
Yeah, and it is important because when you're shooting wide open at 1.2, it's really easy to miss the spot with autofocus.
It truly is.
Just allows you to slightly fine-tune it.
Yes, exactly. I also put extension tubes on that. That was fun.
Of course you did.
I put Z extension tubes on. I'll do a video on those one of these days as well. David says the pancake is a 40mm, not a 45. Thanks, David.
That's really good. I actually prefer that.
That is good because, I've been using the 35 1.8 and I'm not quite... I mean, I might borrow this now that you brought it back. Just try it in comparison.
I might borrow this.
And you can borrow that one. Yeah. Because there's no one coming into the shop to try out the demo equipment, we're just having a great time. We're basically abusing it.
Half of the stock is in Becky's house.
Yes. 500 PF is still in my house. I haven't yet convinced myself to bring it back. But I'm thinking... this in comparison to the 35, I do want something in between the two. I like the idea of having something between the two.
Okay.
A 40mm is a useful focal length. Let's just see. Sam says go mirrorless. It's smaller and lighter, they say. And then you get
and then you put this on.
You think, hold on a second.
And then they ask, why Constantine recommends grip on these cameras? Well, for the lenses like this.
That's right.
It becomes a bit front heavy.
That's right, exactly. Now, just to reiterate, because some of you have joined us a little bit late, we are doing, so our giveaway today is a gift to anyone who wants to use it. It is a £20 coupon to use in our store. The links are below. You can literally use it on anything, a purchase of £50 or above. If you're planning on spending a little bit more and you want to buy a second-hand body or lens, then you've got £50 off a £500 spend, £100 off a £1,000 spend, and £1,500 spend, not £1,500 voucher, but that £150.
No, it's off second hand actually. This is new.
£150 off a £1,500 spend. That is such a mouthful.
Rolling off the tongue.
It's really not. Hi Manesh. He said hi like 6 times. So hi.
Hi.
Andy says con with a C. If the 1.4/1.2s are hard to get sharp, this is why the D850, Z6, Z7 have focus shift shooting focus stacking to merge sharp shots from 5 or 10 others?
Yes and no. If you're photographing people, it's not very practical.
No, it's impossible.
So depending on your use, of course, absolutely. I'm a more of a people photographer, so it wouldn't work for me, unfortunately.
No, although I will be doing whenever it is that the macro lens comes out for the Z system, I'm definitely going to be doing some focus stacking with that. I can absolutely use this with the Nikkor.
But actually, I'm glad Andy pointed it out, because this technique of focus stacking, or some other brands call it focus bracketing, becomes more important nowadays, especially for landscape photography. If you want, let's say, the stone in front of you to be sharp and all the mountains at the back to be sharp as well, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, you can definitely put it to. In fact, when Nikon brought out the focus shift shooting, I was amazed at how many landscape shots it was being used for instead of just macro. I kind of relegated it to the macro.
And actually, interesting now, the thing becomes, remember when we talked about zoom breathing? You know, now it's actually focus breathing on prime lenses becomes as well quite apparent because of the focus stacking feature.
That's right. It's a very good point. Now, what's an Ultron 40mm f2? Do you know?
Is it from
It
Marvel
like
Universe?
Or, it sounds like something. The Age of Ultron. I'm actually amazed that you got that right, and you didn't say, was it from Batman?
No, I'm more of a DC person myself. Not the movies, but actual graphic
the comic
novels.
books. Yeah, I agree.
The graphic novels.
Better writing. So maybe Con's wish list is pointing to the Leica 50mm Similux f1.
I'd love to dip into Leica one day, just to see what it feels like to be reached. But
it's true. It would be nice to try that out. One thing that I am going to be doing over the course of the next couple of weeks is using an SP rangefinder. And I'm thinking maybe I should try it out with the old 1.1 lens.
That sounds good.
I mean, I'd have to insure my camera bag for every trip that
your whole family as well at the same time. But the interesting thing about this, obviously, with the whole COVID situation, where we found that we don't shoot professionally as much as we'd hoped for, I started to do my personal project photography-wise, and what I found is, obviously, professional photographers, we're looking at autofocus speed, the tracking, and all other things.
Yes.
But for personal projects, I actually like and enjoy using some of those lenses. I don't mind to focus manually, and I don't mind that maybe they're not as perfect on high resolution lenses.
That's right.
But again, they give you soul.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Very different ranging. And mention of Leica, I want to see, because what a lot of people say, Leica lenses have their own character in terms of the way they render the world.
For sure.
You know, and when you look at the images, they definitely do. And that's what I want to just try for myself and just see what it is.
Yeah, and I think part of that January one lens challenge that we did of getting you to just use one prime, and the number of people that used 50mm as their standard lens kind of it certainly showed me how versatile that is as a focal length, but also how, particularly because I was spoiled, I had the 1.2, how romantic a 1.2 lens can look.
I like that, romantic.
It is romantic. It's got, this lovely shallow depth of field.
Valentine's Day week, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's got a certain aesthetic to it. But even, Terry was using the 51.8D, Steve using the 51.2 old AIS version or AI version. All of these lenses have a specific quality to them that I think you don't necessarily get with other focal lengths. But just there's so much choice on the 50s as well.
And while we obviously would love you to buy this lens, there's so many lenses that do very different things.
That's right.
Enjoy using them.
Yeah, Mon, I don't know how to pronounce your name, I'm sorry. But
Voigtlander, that's the one.
Thank
Ultron,
you. Yeah, the Ultron is the Voigtlander.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cleaned their grandpa's 51.4, and the texture is so dreamy and soft and low contrast. Sometimes you want a low contrast image.
I love low contrast lenses. One of the things, like what I like about D lenses, specifically, let's say 28 to 70 lens 2.8D.
Yeah.
For studio work, it had much better skin tone reproduction compared to 24 to 70 G lens.
Yes.
So that's what I missed when I upgraded, actually.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point, actually.
And speaking of Voigtlander, I really want to try their Bessa cameras. It's those rangefinder cameras. They used to be about £500 a pop.
Yeah, are they more now?
Yeah.
It's always the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Nikon F sales manual in the background has me intrigued. It's I think it's on your side. This is Gray's library here that we're using as a backdrop.
Yeah, that manual was about £1,000, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think it's for sale even. Andy is in Ghana. Goodness me. Hello, Andy.
Wow.
All the way over there. Hector says D850 with 50mm and D500 with 85mm. Two amazing light lenses for portrait photography for wide and close up. Yeah, I can understand that, because on the D500, the 85 is like a 120
Yeah, well, it's actually we call it roughly 135, but yeah, it's smaller than that.
Yeah, exactly. And Sam says FM38 and 51.2 AIS is just magic. Yes, this is a combination that I use a lot with the 55, but it's a similar size and weight for sure. Yeah. Now, Roy and a few other people have mentioned that using the 1.2s wide open maybe isn't the best thing, and I've certainly found that. This is not the case with the 1.2 Z lens, and also with the 1.8 lens. Using it wide open it's phenomenally sharp, even wide open. With the older versions of the lenses, I was showing you some pictures earlier, it gives you that kind of dreamy...
Oh yeah, which one you showed me, 51.2 or 55.1.2 compared with this one? Okay.
Both. The 55.1.2 is even worse than the 51.2.
And the difference is quite drastic, and that's not even 100% zoomed in. It's literally on just 21-inch screen or something.
That's right, if that.
Yeah, I think the main problem you will have is not actually the the vignetting or or overall rendering, but actually the depth of field. And something like shooting at 1.2, your depth of field is so shallow that you really have to get your focusing right.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, something like flowers or like let's say branches that are moving under the wind, it's not going to work so well.
Very, very difficult. The things that I've enjoyed shooting with the 55 1.2, particularly on film, has been things like flowers, and but where you want it to be a little bit more artistic, rather than have it super, super sharp, like crocuses in springtime with all that, because the bouquet is so bubbly in the background. I'm like gesticulating so much.
Yeah, I love that. No, it's really nice. I agree. Yeah.
Now, someone said not quite 50. Oh yeah, Terry asked, not quite 50, but what are your general views on the 58 1.4G for portraiture specifically? Now, this is you said, are we going to talk about the 58?
Yes. I think it's one of the lenses that has its own character from Nikon.
For sure.
It's not the sharpest of them all.
It's not, but at the same time, it's not that it's not sharp. Do you know what I mean?
If you want a fancy blur, it will give you one of the best blurs from Nikon lens, full stop.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now, the 58mm focal length is a bit of an oddity. Because we had the 55s, I mean, Nikon were making the 55 1.2 back in the 60s or late 60s. And then they went to the 55 1.2. Then they scrapped it and changed it to 50mm 1.2. But they did bring out the 58 knocked.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they brought out the 50mm 1.2 knocked lens, which was designed for low light photography specifically. Honestly, not a lens you want to shoot wide open. They're like £4,000 and you don't want to shoot with it wide open. However, the new knocked, which is for the Z system, which is like this big, which one day we will get our hands on so that we can show you what it looks like.
Going to shoot some action with it?
Yeah, I'm going to shoot some fast moving race horses or whippets. That is definitely a specialist lens. It's a take your time lens. The 58 1.4G came in this kind of interim period, and quite a lot of the marketing for it, if I remember correctly, said, it's based on the design of the 58 knocked.
Yes.
Even though it was a 1.4 lens, not a 1.2. And Simon Stafford did a review on it, I remember, for Nikon Owner, and he was like, look, it's an odd one. You either love it or you hate it. It's not.
You mean like just like Nikon DF?
It's like the DF, yeah. I think it was an odd choice because a lot of professionals will want a gamut of pro lenses, and they'll go, okay, I want a 28 1.4 or a 24 1.4 or a 35. I want something in the middle, and then I want an 85 1.4 or a 105 1.4.
We had a guy who bought 58 and then 105.
Yeah, exactly.
That says that's my portraiture setup.
And the 50 1.4G, if you're a working pro, maybe it's not quite special enough for you.
And that's why Sigma Art was so popular at the time.
Yeah, because the Nikon 50 1.4G, that's the 1.8, isn't it? Yeah.
But 1.4G looks about the same, yeah.
Is kind of not premium enough, if you know what I mean. It wasn't special enough. It didn't give you anything particularly different.
Yes.
To what any other 50mm would. In fact, the 1.4G versus the 1.4D optically was not dramatically different at all.
Part of the chromatic aberrations wide open, that's all.
Yeah, exactly. So the 58 1.4G is very, very different. It's very special. It's one of those lenses that's been on my wish list for so long. If now I've got the Z system. It's like,
and now 158 0.95.
Throw all my plans out of the window. But originally the dream setup had been a 28 1.4.
Okay, yeah, I want that one still.
The 58 1.4G,
okay,
and the 105 1.4E. You got that one, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
And I still have 85 1.4.
That was my dream setup. I don't like 85.
I know. I probably should do like kind of a fight between the two and then sell one. You know.
Yeah, it's true. I'll have a look at, if you look at your archive and you see what you shoot at.
The problem is because I was shooting for 85 for so long that I'm having difficulty shooting with 105. While I do love the rendering, I just can't get used to the feel of it. It's just, I don't know why. So every time I have two lenses side by side, and I'll still go for 85.
But if you do a one lens challenge, like I did, so I'm the same with the 35 and the 50. Rarely use the 50 after I got the 35.
We're doing the same thing in February again?
You can do it. It's a shorter month. You can do what you like. But if you want to, you could use the 105 and just see. You kind of discipline yourself to just using one lens and seeing what happens.
It's just, I don't know, maybe because I'm shooting a lot of indoor stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably why 85 shoots a little bit better for this type of work.
Slightly impractical. Yeah. Right, I missed a few comments, so I'm going to go back quickly. We have 114 likes and 200 viewers. Give us a thumbs up, people. Go on, you can do it. And if you're not subbed, please do subscribe. We are really close to 6,000 subscribers. We would love to hit it by Sunday. So, Ragnar... Great name, by the way, says his circa 1968 55 1.2 owned and used since the 1980s on his F2, F3, D1, D2, D3, dreamy wide open, keeps up with the modern 50s by F8 or so. And I would agree, stop down a little bit. That lens actually, even at F2.8, actually performs really well. Michael's got his 300 PF. He's very happy on his D500. Thank you, Michael, and you're very welcome. Our pleasure. Dixon says the Helios 44 mil, I guess, has
one of the Russian ones.
I don't know. Has the swirliest.
No, the Russians.
Swirliest bokeh. I like the idea of swirly bokeh.
Yeah, Soviet lenses have really interesting bokeh. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed's 51.4 AIS is his favorite for the F3 and the F100. Figgy's, I'm now able to shoot with my 59mm f1.8 pan color adapted to my Nikon. I'm really interested to see what you guys are using, actually. It's kind of fascinating.
Pan color, is it like what, like Panavision? Is it like one of those cinematography lenses?
Adapted for I'm just trying to find it now. Yes. Look at that. Wow.
Fancy.
Live research here. James Oliver's comment about the Nikon sales manual made me look at the other books. Was Tony Hancock a renowned photographer? Yes, as far as I know. That's a question for Gray, actually. Ragnar says, also not a pancake 51.8E and the D610.
Series E.
Yeah, Series E and the D610. It's interesting how many people still rate those E series lenses.
Yeah, they were nice.
Yeah. I didn't like the plastic version, though, the all plastic version, that very first one.
Optically is good.
Just didn't look like a Nikon lens. And Jeremy says this live stream has inspired him. I've got my late father's FG in the cupboard. Must see what 50mm lens is on it. Yes,
yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Let's do.
We don't see FGs very often, do we?
No, we don't. Not so much these days. Stephen says that you are making a great deal of sense for the first time ever. No, I'm joking. Sharpness is less important than character, in my opinion. Pixel peeping is not very helpful compared to the overall artistic nature.
It's all about the feel.
That's right. That's what
La passion.
It's about the feeling. Ivar really wants to win. Ivar, you're a winner.
You're the winner. £20 voucher coming to your way.
For you in the description
Over
box.
£50 purchase. Small print.
That's right. In the fine print.
No, but like I like the lenses more like the way they feel. Like, you get the image if you like it, you stick with it. I can't care less about all this clinical rubbish about specifications.
No, exactly. It's about the feeling, really.
Try the lens, see if you like it. If you like what it gives you, you don't need to buy another lens.
Yes, exactly.
Buy more.
Simon says, I agree. I use the 60mm rather than the 50 or 24 most. Yeah, I'm a 60 and a 35 kind of user. I don't and the 20 actually.
Let's talk about MFT charts.
MTF, isn't it?
You see, I'd rather talk about stock market than MFT charts myself. You see,
I know. I realise that. Ed says these days lenses are too sharp.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's a bit of Vaseline on them, a bit of a stalking,
right.
like in good old days on medium format lenses.
What I love is soft focus filters, where you put it on and it's like this dreamy. Your lens is too sharp, buy a soft focus filter.
The shoot I did last year, the pre-Christmas shoot. I actually had an old filter that I put Vaseline on, smudged it all over, and it gave me this 80s look.
That's nice. Was that for the one in the field, the fashion?
Yeah, yeah, it was like, this kind of New Year kind of thing. I think it's what Christmas, but, whatever they call it. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Baxter says, in the olden days of film and manual focus, faster glass was handy. Now high ISO capability, faster glass is less critical. Depth of field is not just about fast aperture.
But if we start to talk about rendering, I think it becomes more important.
That's true.
Sometimes those wide aperture lenses produce slightly different rendering, which is more pleasing for a lot of people.
Exactly. It's quite a few comments on the 85 subject. Maybe we should do a portrait edition.
Yeah, we should do that.
Hosted by Con, because I don't shoot many portraits these days.
Here's a portrait of me with 10 different lenses. Let's pixel peep it.
Yes. Yeah. Ragnar also says the cheap AI or AI'd 55 3.5 cheap 55 3.5 micro is remarkable, often under $50 here. That is a remarkable lens. I had one for a long time. I actually chipped it. I used it chipped, and then I sold it, and I regretted it.
Yeah, you should do the whole stream on how to chip your manual focus lens.
I don't want to. Not now. The place where I bought my chips from doesn't exist anymore. So.
But on that point further, photography doesn't need to be expensive.
No, exactly. You can pick up some absolute gems without having to spend a fortune. The 50 mils are actually a really good example of that. Yeah. Now let me just see. We've got. I don't know what that question means. Do you know what that means? Oh,
black and white.
G and D, as in the lenses.
Between, not black and white, between G and Ds, yes. So Gs are better on high resolution sensors. Ds, because they don't have built-in autofocus motor. On high res sensors, again, focusing is not as precise. But the Ds are fantastic for being compact. So if you do like street life photography, documentary style, they're really good because they don't make your camera look big.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you've got a smaller body like a D3000 series or a 5000 series, those don't autofocus with lenses that don't have motors in them. So you need an AFS lens for that.
That's true.
Sam says if he wins the 51.2 in the giveaway, he'll get a Z6 to go with it.
And I love olive oil. Not Spanish, but
pro mist filters are all the rage.
Oh yes, we still want to try that.
Yeah, exactly.
The hype is real.
That's right. It's like you can add even post-processing filters to these things now. I do agree, Roy. The old AI manual lenses are still fantastic. I think that they're small enough that you can usually carry a few at a time, whereas you'd normally maybe carry one big G lens with you, and then you can carry multiple AIS lenses. My favorite slip in the pocket lens is actually the 200 f4 AI.
I think I bought one second hand at
this big.
£40.
Yeah, bargain.
You know this thing in Pimlico they had every May.
The photo.
I'm thinking Foteini.
I know. Photographica.
Photographica.
Yeah.
Yes, I picked one at £40.
Amazing. It's I wish they would do that again. Maybe post-COVID we'll get something like that.
So yeah, if you want soft focus effects, Samantha says you can just sneeze on your lens. It's good advice.
Yeah. Biker Gremling says, speaking about D lenses, when is the stream about the D zooms? We need to do that one.
Zooms.
We need to do the zooms next week. And then, sorry. We had the flash on our cover last week.
Yes.
We're going to have zoom.
Yes.
Who's Flash's nemesis?
Who is Zoom? Okay. Yeah, I'm not that deep into that. Yeah.
Right. It's just appealing to my nerdy nature. It's fine. Roy says Photoshop is better than a mist filter, apparently. I think we should just try it. It would be quite fun.
Well, the mist filters, they give this kind of glowy, soft effect. It's almost like cinematography one. But they cost about £80-90 a pop.
Yeah.
And then you're going to say like, yeah.
Or you could just apply an effect in post-processing. But yeah, that's interesting. Jeremy says, cupboard has been raided. It's a 51.8 Series E. Well, there you go, Jeremy. You can use that on your camera, on your modern digital camera, and see what you think. I'd be interested. I'd love to do something like, a 50 mil. I know we just got through a one lens challenge, but I'd love to do a 50 mil challenge where everybody tries to shoot just one particular subject with 50 mil or spends a whole day shooting just with
And
the
you know what
50
we should do? We should have like a shared pool of images that everyone can just upload to, and then we can show them.
Well, we do have that in our drive folder.
We do? Okay.
We have this place. If you want to, producer, maybe we can create a folder for 50 mils that's an open folder, and then they can put their 50 mil images in there and we can share them. That would be nice. Yes, we will.
We have some things in place.
Exactly. So we are pretty much up for an hour, just flew by. But we are pretty much up to the limit on our time. Please do give us a thumbs up. Thank you to 135 of you that have done that. Please do subscribe if you're not already subscribed. It takes all of about half a second to just click on that subscribe button.
Beep.
And then when we hit 6,000 subscribers, what are we going to do?
Little dance.
We're going to do a little dance and we'll upload it. Maybe we'll upload some of the less explicit bloopers as well. No, there's none of those. Oh well, we have all the fun when the camera's off. And please do take advantage of the coupon. So £20 coupon is for everyone. You can use that on anything in the store.
Over £50.
Over £50. Thank you.
I'm the lawyer here. Yeah,
making sure it's in the fine print. Yeah, exactly. Memory card, battery. I mean, an XQD card is more than £50. So anyway, that's for you. You can have that. And then also we've got our secondhand promo, which is running till the end of the month. So basically it's 10% off 500, 1,000 and £1,500 spends. The coupons and all the descriptions and everything are below.
The 50mm lens is available for all these prices that Becky mentioned.
Pretty
so you
much.
can choose one, whichever suits you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I didn't say thank you to Adrian, who also contributed to the coffee fund. Thank you very much. We will work out a time to do our AFD Zoom stream.
Yeah, I need to check my calendar.
In our schedule. Yeah. We will certainly bring that to you. So thank you for reminding us. And thank you for all your comments and all your amazing interaction today. It's been
it was a great chat today, wasn't it?
Huge amount of fun. And if you've got any other things you'd like to see us discuss on a stream or any topics you'd like to see in a video, please do drop us a comment, or you can always email us at media@graysofwestminster.co.uk. I think that's it, isn't it?
We're all done.
We're all done.
Thank you very much.
See you next week for another stream. Thank you very much, and bye.
Bye.
Bye.